You've tuned into Invisi Youth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Invisi Youth Chat Sessions, where you can check in for your dose of stigma-breaking, motivation-filling, humor-loving, life hacks and motivation tips for all of the medically adultish people in life. I'm Dominique Vale, the founder of Invisi Youth and the host of Invisi Youth Chat Sessions, and today is episode 22 of season 2. And since 22 is one of my favorite numbers, naturally I had to bring on one of my favorite people to be our guest today. It's my friend who is a type 1 diabetes activist, Rachel Mayo. So in today's episode with Rachel, I said it was probably going to feel a little unique considering our young adult nonprofit platform, but trust me, it's actually one of the topics that a lot of you have brought up over the past 4 years to myself and to the rest of the Invisi Youth team on our social media, and I felt that Rachel, as I explain how fantastic Rachel is, you will certainly know why she's such a perfect fit for the topics we're going to chat about today. So with Rachel, she has really carved herself as one of the most amazing activists on social media, such a positive reinforcement of living life with chronic illness, especially with an invisible illness, and how to really adapt and grow and finding ways to build on your dreams and adapting to what your health can do to order yourself to be able to achieve those dreams. So with Rachel, she got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 18. So being able to sort of navigate her life with health struggles at that point, being in university when that had started as well, is a definite sort of coming of age while building a new brand with invisible illness as part of her description of how she was as a person. And Rachel has really gone from traveling for work, traveling for fun. You can check her social media out. Rachel has so many fantastic traveling photos among her great activism photos too. And Rachel's even done a lot of volunteering with other nonprofits as well. So her being able to really build such a strong platform of showing the diversity in life with chronic illness has been so fantastic. She's really built her platform of leadership and motivational speaking. She spent many years with the company Paradigm Shift, where she was a conference consultant, so building that whole leadership brand of motivation has been such a part of her working history. And she's also been part of amazing other nonprofits that you've seen us working with in the past. She's done writing for Beyond Type 1, which is a young adult diabetes activism group, and she's also volunteered with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And now Rachel's actually part of the philanthropic work family, as I like to say, where she now works for JDRF as one of their volunteer engagement and outreach managers for the Middle and East Tennessee. So now she's fully in the charity working world like myself, which I love so much. And so for Rachel, her platform has always really been showing all the full facets of life with chronic illness. And now 7 months ago, she added what I like to say is one of her best new parts of her resume. She got to add becoming a mom to one of the cutest babies I've ever seen in my life. His name is Noah, and if you follow her on Instagram, you will get to see why I think he's the perfect baby model on the planet, just like his mom. So I want to have everyone get to be introduced to Rachel. So hi, Rachel. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for the wonderful compliments about Noah. You know, before it was like, I love the compliments about myself. Who doesn't? But when people talk nicely about my child, like, that is just the best. So hello and thank you.
Of course, like I said, I had to bring on one of my favorite people when I knew that we were on episode 22. It just had to happen.
22 was one of your favorite numbers, or that you even had multiple favorite numbers, but I am honored.
And I'm so excited. It's gonna be a really fun hour to have you on the show, and we're gonna just jump right in so our guests can get to know you a little bit better. And we're going to jump into our first segment, Rapid Fire Roundup.
Rapid Fire Round.
With Rapid Fire Roundup, this is our quick, fun, and quirky way of getting to know our guests, where I'm going to be firing off different questions at Rachel, and she's going to be thinking of the first thing that pops into her mind. So it's going to be a rapid section of getting to know her. So, quick one, Rachel. If you had to put your dream vacation home in any place, where would it be?
On a beach somewhere. It doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does matter where. Like, I don't want it to be in the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, but anywhere where there's beach.
There we go, beach. If you had your go-to coffee order, what is it?
Venti iced vanilla latte.
Oh, love that. There we go. Simple and classic. There we
go.
Just like you. What is your favorite thing you're going to look forward to when you get very old?
Playing with my grandkids.
Oh, I love that. If you had to pick your favorite utensil in the kitchen to use, which one is it?
Well, okay, I don't really do things in the kitchen very much, but I'm really in love with my mini waffle maker.
Oh, I love that. That's actually really cute. If you had to pick one of your favorite childhood presents you were given, which one comes to mind?
My favorite, which was probably ended up being my parents' least favorite, was like a karaoke like microphone stand thing, and you could just be really loud and obnoxious. It was the best.
My sister had one, so I can totally relate.
Yes, you understand. Yeah.
I understand. I think we still actually have that mic after so many years.
Right. Who gets rid of it? It's so wonderful.
I know. If you had to give yourself a different accent, obviously you're from Tennessee, you have a bit of a southern accent. If you had to pick any other one to have, which would you want?
It's probably overrated, but I'd 100% be British.
There we go. See, I love it. Yeah. We work in the UK. They talk to me all the time. It's very fun in my ears to listen to them speak.
I love it. It's so soothing.
It really is. If you had to pick any other nonprofit to work for, which one do you think you'd love to sort of spend some time with too?
InvisiYouth. Duh.
Didn't even shameless plug it. I love that. If you had to pick one celebrity mama that you would like to have you and Noah have a play date with, who would you want to pick?
Beyonce.
Oh,
100%.
Would you want Blue Ivy and the twins? We're going to just bring the whole gang?
All of them, yes. The more the merrier.
I love that. What is an adjective in your vocabulary you think you use quite a bit?
Hilarious. I used hilarious twice before this podcast even started with you guys. Everything is hilarious.
I was going to say amazing. I have our brand leaders will laugh that I say amazing to everything. They're like, Dominique, pick another one.
Probably one of mine as well. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And then last one, if you had to pick to have two different types of neighbors, sort of celebrities that were dead and alive, who would you want to be on both sides of your house?
Okay, so living Lady Gaga, because she is like my idol. I love her. Like, I am just obsessed with her. So, I mean, if I could have her on both sides, I would, but that's not possible. So Lady Gaga on one side, and then from the past, I'm going to go like real nerdy and say someone like Abraham Lincoln, just because I feel like having him as a neighbor right now, his mind would just be blown. Like, hey, Abe, come on over. Look at all this stuff that's happening in 2019. Also, I think it's fun to have really tall friends. So.
Everyone's tall to me, Rachel. So.
Yeah.
At 5'2", everybody I have to look up to at this point.
Oh, yeah, you're fun size.
I am. There we go. I say vertically challenged, but I'm going to take fun sized now. That's now my new favorite way to describe short.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that. So now that we got to know Rachel a little bit better, we're going to go into our next segment where you're going to learn some massive wisdom from Rachel. You'll get to see why I fell in love with her social media activism route when you get to go into this segment with her. We're going to go into Chat Me Up.
Chat Me Up.
Hey, want to chat? With our Chat Me Up segment, this is where I get to chat with Rachel about some of those how-to and talking tips about getting people talking about invisible illness and growing your life through teenage and young adult years with your chronic illness or disability, and really figuring out how you can approach doctors, family and friends, or those lovely random people on social media who write back and forth with you on how to talk different ways and get, as we like to say, chat up those conversations. So I'm going kind of right in with Rachel. I know one of the things obviously you and I have in common is sort of we're diagnosed as later teens with our chronic illnesses and sort of have aged through our 20s with them as well. So we've had to kind of figure out those life-altering conversations or figuring out the long-term ways of living with chronic illness. So how, if you had to give tips to people of talking to their doctors about sort of those long-term topics in life, what would you suggest of how you can get those conversations going with doctors?
I mean, it just depends so much on your personality. For me, I am not necessarily scared to be vulnerable with my doctor. And I haven't always been like that. But after I was first diagnosed, I mostly just didn't know what to ask. So I would definitely encourage your listeners, your watchers to kind of step outside their comfort zone and say, hey, you know what? I'm really not even sure what I should be thinking about or asking right now. I know, like, I want to look 10 years ahead of time. Yeah. What are some things that I should be thinking about right now? And if you do have something in mind, I mean, I know that it can be so scary to just be like, hey, to have like that sex, drugs, and rock and roll talk with your doctor, but they're doctors and you're not the first person they've talked to about this, and they are 100% comfortable. It's just a medical thing. It might be weird to you, but it's just a medical thing to them. So, I mean, number one piece of advice is just you're going to have to step outside your comfort zone, get a little awkward, make yourself vulnerable, and just be honest about where you are with your doctor.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love how you said that too, is sort of as you've spent different years living with type 1 diabetes, you've sort of found your own voice of how you talk with your doctors and sort of found that comfort with them, because I was very similar in the same way. You really don't know what to ask, and they're just answering the questions you bring forward. So it is, I think, a great idea, like you had said, sort of asking the doctor. So 10 years down the line, what are things I should be looking for in my life with the health struggles that I have?
Yeah, I think it's so important because you only know what you know, and you really need to have a good relationship with your doctor so that they're looking towards your future as well, not just you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a big thing too, because obviously my injury happened right before I turned 16, so I was in that sort of straddling between pediatrics and adult healthcare. So a lot of times I felt somewhat confused asking pediatric doctors questions about how do I go to a university, who do I talk to if I go to a university about my health issues, do I need other doctors at other hospitals, because they were pediatrics, so it wasn't a conversation they had all the time. So I even felt uncomfortable asking at 16, 17, 18 because they would always say they didn't know, and I always will now encourage people. One doctor actually had asked me when I was in pediatrics, he said, do you want me to refer you to a colleague I know in an adult health care facility that is in the same branch? They were both rheumatologists. So it was him sort of actively saying, how about I give you a referral? And I could even just have a consult email or conversation with him on the phone or just an initial visit. And it was him sort of taking that initiative as a pediatrician in his sort of pediatric rheumatology specialty of asking me, do you want to go to an adult physician for that concern? That's what sparked me going, oh, I can ask my doctors for referrals and ask them, oh, if you don't understand this, could you refer me to someone else? I'm still going to go to you. This is a concern of mine. I don't want to ask Google and keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Dr. Google is not always your best friend. And you should absolutely feel free to, if you feel like your doctor doesn't know, to ask for a referral, to say, okay, well, who can help me? And your doctor should 100% be on board with helping you find someone. And if not, it's time to fire that doctor.
Yeah, it's time to move on.
Exactly.
I like that too. And like you had said as well before, was that there were at 18 when you had gotten diagnosed, and obviously you were in university, and so that was a whole new transition of sort of a life structure for yourself too. But were there different topics you can think on sort of at that age moving forward to where you're at now that were sort of big life-changing moments? So you went, God, I wish in hindsight I knew to ask about these sort of things as I got older, because I was sort of somewhat surprised when I was facing those discussions as I started to go in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah, and this is going to sound, I'm not really sure. Some people might judge me for this, but when I was in college, I mean, everyone around you is drinking, and I was a good girl. I didn't really drink that much, but I didn't know how. A lot of it is like, I don't know what I'm doing, how I'm gonna feel. So a lot of it was just because I was scared and I didn't want to. A lot of it is because I was a good girl growing up. But I just wish I would have spoken with, maybe not necessarily even my doctor, but just someone who had been a few steps ahead of me, saying, you know what, these are the things that you're going to encounter while you're in college, whether it be alcohol, whether it be, I mean, I was the mascot for my university, so it's like, how do you...
Wait. What was your university's mascot? Before I start laughing, was it something fun?
Yeah, so I went to Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and the mascot is Big Red. It's a big red blob. Oh. Like, it's not a thing. Big Red is the spirit of Western. So... I've heard it described in many ways. Tickle Me Elmo on drugs, a blood drop, an amoeba, a red hamburglar. So, it's just a big red blob. But I had no idea how to balance physical exertion with my illness or heat or dehydration. I mean, I think the biggest thing is I just tried to figure it out all by myself, and that was not the right way to go. So I wish I would have asked all of the questions about literally any question I had, because there were a ton of them, but I thought they were stupid or I should know. And there are no stupid questions, and you are not born with this knowledge. Like, you have to seek it out.
Exactly.
So I really, if I could go back and do that, 100%, my college life would have been way easier.
And total side note, when my injury came from being a competitive tennis player, and in high school our uniforms were red and they were somewhat awkward fitting, so my nickname in tennis was Elmo. So this is how I knew this friendship was moving forward. My tennis uniform made me look like Elmo. You were an Elmo.
I mean, just another reason why we're friends.
Exactly. And I love how you said that too, because even for myself, sort of transitioning out of the college structure of being in school and being in a dorm, having my own space, going into the working force and owning InvisiYouth, that being my main focus of employment, my structured days were so different. So main issues I was then starting to have was trying to balance my own health with my work schedule, when I would be trying to work 12-hour days where my body would just hit a wall and my health would start to have flare-ups and setbacks. And similar to yourself, I didn't know how to ask questions to my doctors of, should I be going on medication to help with sort of the neuropathic pain I was having, or what would that look like? I didn't want to be on a medication indefinitely if there was no time frame, so then I would be nervous of even asking about medication a lot of times, or how will that look in my 30s, or if I'm trying to have kids, what does that then look like? Because at 20, I'm thinking I probably shouldn't have been asking that question, but it is something down the line as well that you want to think about. Okay, I should be asking these sort of questions of, how does this look having kids? What does this look like if I'm on medication 10, 20 years?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's so important to understand, when you go to the doctor and you're trying to figure things out, or you start something new, that you should definitely think in terms of, how is this going to affect me 10 years from now? How is this decision? How is this medication? How is all of this going to affect me in 10 years? We're so focused on the immediate future that we often forget 10 years from now is a thing too. You got 10 minutes from now, you got 10 months from now, and you got 10 years from now. And that's that 10 years from now that we're just like, we'll figure it out when we get there. But we don't want to make it an emergency. We don't want to make it an I wish I would have situation. We just want to go ahead and think about it now.
No, and I love how you said that too. There's that framing of 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, 10 years from now. It's sort of thinking in the same, even numerically, that does make a lot of sense for other people trying to figure out how to address ask questions to their medical professionals, or even family and friends. I always say, if they're asking questions of you as well, why are you doing this sort of treatment if it's going to take longer, if we want to make you healthier and have a better quality of life now, but you might be thinking, oh, this form of treatment or these treatments, these medications would be better for me to sustain long term. So you then start to feel like you're justifying your medical choices because of what you're thinking of is different than what your doctors may be thinking of.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
No, for sure. And you were answering, I'm laughing, I'm going to throw these cards over my shoulder because I had two other questions and you answered them without me even asking them. So we're moving on to the next segment. This is perfect. So switching gears, before we go into our intermission segment, which I know you all love because it's one of my favorite segments we have on the show now, I want to, like we always do, thank you guys for listening or watching the InvisiYouth chat sessions on our YouTube channel. Of course, you should definitely do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get to see my lovely face in this lovely studio, and you get to see the lovely Rachel as well on camera with me, or listening to us on any of our podcast platforms, and being able to subscribe and especially donate to us. We'll have a link sort of popping up below as well, because any donation really helps us sustain our virtual programming, so we're able to reach even more young adults across the United States and in Canada, in the UK, Australia as well, to help provide our virtual programming, our leadership programs, and even our events more as well. So like I always say, any donation, even if it's instead of going to Starbucks and getting a coffee and you donate that coffee money once a month to us, that we're surely thankful for it, and it helps us continue making podcasts like these with Rachel. And why would you not want another episode with Rachel, guys? I don't even know. So going into our intermission segment, it's time for me to take a break, drink some water, and Rachel to tell me a story. So we're going to go into So That One Time.
So that one time.
So that one time. Okay, so my story is about the first time I really felt like I was just completely confident in my management of my type 1 diabetes. So that one time I was in Africa, okay?
And just drop it, right? Just drop that. One time I was there.
Julie, I was in Africa, right? No, I was there for work, and we were really trying to make the most out of our trip. So we were staying in Zambia. Ooh. And Botswana is close by. So we were out and we were doing some, sightseeing thing. And Botswana was like 30 minutes away. And all I had on me was just my little diabetes pack, right? It has my insulin, it has my PDM, my personal diabetes manager, I have my phone, but that's really all I had. And we're like, let's go to Botswana. Let's walk over the border into this third world country where we have no agenda, we don't know where food is. To be honest, I still don't know what I ate half the time.
Oh, no.
They're like, yeah, it's rice and something. I know I ate rice and a lot of some things, but it's like trying to carb count for that is just impossible. So I thought, and I didn't really think twice about going. I didn't think twice about, let's head on. And then it wasn't until I got back when I was talking to some people and they said, you have a chronic illness that, could kill you at any second.
No big deal.
And no big deal. And you just casually walked over the border into a third world country with no plan or backup. And I thought, wow, that was really stupid. You're right, that was really dumb of me. But also, no, I felt really proud of myself because I had gotten myself to a point where I felt completely confident in my management and my problem solving skills and just everything around having a chronic illness that I felt confident enough to be able to do something spontaneous. I mean, some people don't even feel confident enough to do something just off schedule, to just randomly go to dinner when someone asks them half an hour before. So I thought, this is awesome, and I want to have more moments like these. So it really gave me it was a light bulb moment of, hey, Rachel, you are further along than you give yourself credit for. You are more confident than you're giving yourself credit for. And this is another way that you can help other people do the same thing. It was a really powerful moment that seemed insignificant at the time, but ended up I'm going to remember it forever.
Yeah, and I love that you said that too. It was sort of giving yourself a bit of a pat on the back, going that you knew right away what sort of your go-to, I'm saying go-to, your sort of go-to small traveling kit of what your medical necessities. You even knew I had this ready. You knew like quickly off the top of your head, if I have to immediately leave a location, this is what I need. And sort of you even doing that right away, you sort of even having it subconsciously, you've been doing that so many times that you then knew this is life-threatening, this bag is what I would need.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's so important as well. Like you said, sometimes is giving yourself a pat on the back, whether to say, if somebody asked you last minute, hey, medically, I'm not feeling my best right now. So you wouldn't be able to say yes or no confidently to decisions because you can be so in check with your health. That is, like you said, it's a nice moment with living with a chronic illness, knowing that you're so mentally intuitive with what your body needs.
Yeah, and I feel like just in general, those of us who have chronic illnesses, we don't give ourselves enough credit. I mean, we don't pat ourselves on the back enough. And I want to, just invite everyone who's listening right now to just go ahead and do that. Just
I'm doing it.
A little pat. Just go ahead and do that. You deserve it. I don't know you. I don't know your story. I don't know your life, but I know you deserve it.
Oh my God. Yes. I just patted myself on the back, and I'm going, I have to be able to reach, and that can always be a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll slowly pat. So when I don't dislocate my shoulder. So we'll try and avoid that.
Yeah, no injuries.
So I love that. And actually, I'm hoping, because I think I've seen actually some of your traveling photos probably from that trip as well. Is this the one where you're near a waterfall at one point?
Yes, Victoria Falls. We were swimming in Devil's Pool, which Africa is a little different in that here you have to sign a waiver for like literally everything. Like you look at a water park and you have to sign a waiver to just look at the water park. But here it's like, don't cross this rope because the waterfall will take you over the edge. Have fun.
Thumbs up.
So yeah, it was like 300 feet up. You're just looking over the edge. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely terrifying. But yeah, that's where it was. There were a lot of firsts on that trip.
We will have to make sure that when this episode's live and we have your graphics for the episode, that will be one of the photos we have so people can swipe through.
Absolutely send you guys that one.
I love that. So speaking of epic things that Rachel has sort of in her go-to kit to help her with traveling with type 1 diabetes and doing her work that way, we're going to then go back into what would be our next segment, because I want you guys to take some notes from Rachel, and we're going to do What's Your Life playlist. What's your life playlist? What's your life playlist? With What's Your Life playlist, this is how we really get to chat with our guests about some of the latest trends, apps, go-to kit items they may have, sort of podcasts, music, whatever they might have in their go-to of what they would add into a playlist of their life that they would want to share with all of you. So I say, as I have a notepad and pen on my desk as well, this is where I always say, take out your notepad or take out your note-taking app on your phone, whatever you like to do, and let Rachel sort of drop some lifestyle knowledge on all of us here. And this is sort of, I like to say, we get to shift gears with Rachel bringing her activism tips as well as her mama tips as well for a lot of you, because this is something we get to hear quite a bit from a lot of the young adults with InvisiYouth is, I would want to be able to have a family and have kids or taking care of my nieces and nephews and cousins at different points, and you want to know some of the latest ways of being able to balance that sort of your health life while also having somebody else to take care of in your life too. So we're going to get some major tips from Rachel with this. So kind of ironically, going to start off on your traveling and excursions, what would be some different tips, whether it's nutrition tips of things that you like to carry on the go or different exercise tips of different apps or different styles of working out that you think are really good for yourself that you loved having?
Sure. So I think the main thing is just to know your own limits and know what works for your body. So for me personally, carb counting is a huge thing for me, and knowing how physical activity affects my body, is huge. And whether you realize it or not, traveling is a physical activity. Your body does not know the difference between lifting weights or traveling all day. It's all stress, it's all exercise, and just knowing like what is going to stress you out. So I know sometimes I don't need to pack my little granola bars that have the exact carb counts, because I'll be fine, whatever. I'll just figure it out. That's not the best, method for everything, just figuring it out as you go. But for the times when I can't, when I'm like, you know what, I need to have everything regimented and I need to have everything in order. I'll have my trusty granola bars, those things that I always eat that I know exactly what they're going to do to my blood sugar. I know exactly how long they're going to stay in my system. I know exactly how they're going to interact with whatever I happen to be doing. So I feel like consistency is probably the thing that matters the most, especially if you're not used to traveling. Just having as much normal stuff as possible in the midst of all the things you can't control. Just keeping those things close to your chest.
No, I love that. And like you had said too, a lot of it is sort of a lot of it I always say is trial and error. If you're going to try new things, even from a nutritional standpoint, always try those when you're in sort of your day-to-day normal structure of going to work or school and being home. Because then especially on your end as well, with making sure from your insulin levels, having diabetes, what that is, your diet has to be a big part of your daily life of what you're eating and drinking. So like you had said, building a consistency first before you travel, because that's not when you want to wing it and go, should I try that?
Let's not fly internationally, start a new diet, and start training for a marathon at the same time. Like, just pick one.
In unison.
Yeah.
And I love that too, like you had said, because I know, speaking of training for a marathon, I know running is a big part of your new exercise regime, but are there things that you add in terms of like timer apps or different apps for exercise that you've gotten to use that you think, oh, these are really nice and they're functional for you with your work schedule and your schedule with Noah as well?
Yeah, so for fitness and nutrition, I use MapMyRun and MyFitnessPal. They work together.
Oh, cool.
And, you just got to figure out what works for you. But with MyFitnessPal, they have every food imaginable, and I just plug it in and it has the carbs. It has all the nutritional info. I'm mostly concerned with the carbs. And you can put in your goals. It does so much figuring out for you. And I hate math and I hate figuring things out. So this app does it for me. So thank you. Yeah. And then MapMyRun will keep track of my how much I run, when and you can add in your own notes. It's such a great tracker. For Noah, the best app, you can really get overwhelmed with apps, right? And I'm kind of a nerd. I like when I try everything. But the one that worked best for me is it's called Baby Feed Timer. And you log when you changed his diaper, what kind of diaper it was. You log how much, everything. Food, you can go formula, breast milk, solid food, sleep logs. You name it. It's got it. It's got growth charts. It's just it's all encompassing. And I just have, at this point, I'm trying to minimize. So the fewer apps, the fewer things, the better. So I have that app next to all of my just daily apps. They're all in one spot where I can just do this with my thumb and get to whatever I need.
No, and I love that too, like you had said, especially since you use different apps for your health sort of day-to-day structure, adding one from a parenting perspective that's sort of, like you said, they're next to each other on my phone, so you always know if I'm tracking for myself and my health or my carb counting or my exercise, making sure that's working well with your health. It's also the same place where you would, even if you needed a reminder going, oh, I should write that down with Noah today. It's sort of in the same place, so then it works. And I love when you said that you trial apps, because I always like to tell people, similar to sort of looking at infomercials of different products, and they say you can return things after 60 days. I like to say in the app world, a 60-day trial tends to be my go-to, because the first week of trying any app or exercise regime or different diet or snacks sometimes you can get defeated very quickly in a week. So I always will suggest try that 60-day return policy guarantee. The same thing you would do with clothes before you return them. I say do those with apps or different pieces for your nutrition.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. It's so true.
No, and I'm going kind of even off of that. Are there sort of, I know you have such a busy schedule with Noah and with your work schedule with JDRF as well. Are there different apps or even just sort of physical planners that have been helpful for you in terms of scheduling or figuring out your sort of weekly schedule as well?
Yeah, so I am a major nerd when it comes to organization and like scheduling. So I have tried literally every to-do list app, every like task-oriented app, and I love them all. Right now, I love Google Tasks because
that's on the card, Rachel. Check.
That's so funny. Or that's hilarious, as I always say. I love Google Tasks because I can have it on my computer in front of me. I can have it on my phone beside me. It's just really easily accessible. You can set up reminders, but I also utilize just the calendar that comes on my iPhone.
Oh, okay.
And then I also have a physical planner that I write on for work. It stays at work, but I still I'm kind of in that age where it's like, I love technology and I love my phone. Everything lives on my phone. I love tech and gadgets, but I also love to write things down. Mm-hmm. So I have my physical planner. I write out my task list for the day. I love to physically mark things off. It's so satisfying.
I was just going to say, the check off is my favorite thing.
I'm just like, zoom. Like it feels so good. So I have that. So I kind of go overboard when it comes to maybe scheduling and planning. For most people, I think maybe just pick one thing. But right now, I'm kind of obsessed with Google Tasks. That's just I'm kind of obsessed with Google in general, so yeah, I will say.
And like you had said too, it's sort of like you said, your iPhone comes with its own calendar, and on my end, I have an Android, so it's similar to have your Google Calendar syncs into Google Tasks, and it's if I'm checking emails, they're all going in the same places, so it all pops up.
Everything just goes to the same place. I don't have to worry about it. If there's something that can do something for me that I don't have to do, please take it from me.
Oh, absolutely. And I know even a lot of the young adults that are, especially our global brand leaders as well, a lot of them take different medications, and that's sort of scheduled throughout the day as well.
Oh, yeah.
So they have, I know one of the newest ones, I know My Meds has always been one of their personal favorites in terms of an organizer for their schedule, but there was a newer one called Simple with a Y that they've all been loving because they can take notes in terms of side effects or symptoms throughout the day, which have been great for them to track with doctors, because obviously on my end, especially having like a brain fogging, I'm always going, wait, did that not feel well in the afternoon? I don't really remember how I was feeling. I think something was wrong, and I can't remember if I don't have a notepad on me to take notes. So they had always been suggesting, even our RN, to balance that with something that tells them, do you want to add notes throughout the day, because it hits a reminder on their phone. So I thought that was really helpful to have as well.
There's a lot of those with, different glucometers. They have their apps now, and you can log the same thing. My insulin pump will actually remind me around lunchtime, around dinner time, because I put in when I eat or what time I usually eat, and it'll send me, it'll just alert me and be like, hey, it's after lunchtime, but you haven't given yourself insulin. Do you want to do that? And whenever it gives me that reminder, it's usually like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. So those reminders are definitely helpful. Now sometimes I do get alarm fatigue, right? Where I'm just so tired of buzzing and noises that I just shut everything off,
Yeah.
and only go with the basics. But for the most part, if there's a reminder, if there's something that can tell me what to do and when to do it, I'm going to do that.
And like last piece of sort of playlist advice too, I know a big form, like you had said, you use a lot for your activism. You've been such a very vital part is using your Twitter and your Instagram accounts for bringing that sort of type 1 diabetes activism and invisible illness activism. So now kind of bringing Noah into the picture quite a bit too, which I'm thoroughly thankful for because that face on my feed every day is amazing. But have you used either like different hashtags or tags that have helped sort of divide even when you're looking at posts that are very much about your activism work and posts that are more mama life and baby life? Do you tend to use different hashtags that you've made sure to add on your posts?
Yeah. I still, so I feel like the past 14 years has kind of been divided up into 3 segments. I have my type 1, like it's all about type 1, it's all the time, all type 1, all the time. And then when we started thinking about having a family, and we actually started on the infertility journey. So we found out we were infertile, and so we had to go through the in vitro fertilization process to have Noah. So then pretty much everything became about IVF. Mm-hmm. So I've got my T1D hashtags, I've got my IVF hashtags. And so you've got, T1D moms. I haven't tried it, but I assume there are very few like IVF T1D hashtags.
You'd be making your own.
Small percentage of people using that. But for, type 1, it is hashtag T1D. T1D looks like me. T1D mom. For IVF, it's IVF journey, IVF success, anything IVF. And then as far as just being a mom, I love my hashtag boy mom. I love looking at that because I get to look at what my future is going to be like and just how crazy it is going to be a boy mom, because when they're 7 months old, it's like you got a boy or you got a girl. There's really not much difference in how they're acting, but I know that it's going to be different. But yeah, I am, and I like to test. I mean, gosh, I'm really such a nerd. I just test out different hashtags just to see what comes up, what might bring people to my account. So there's no telling how many different combinations I've tried, but I do kind of separate them into those 3 with type 1, IVF, and then being a mom. But also like type 1 mom is my newest little adventure into hashtag land.
Yeah, no, I love that you said too, sometimes even being so specific, you can't see a lot of things. So even us, I know when I first started in VisiYouth, I had a lot of teenagers referring to me as a spoonie, which I had never heard of before. And I thought it was a slightly bizarre trait. I knew about invisible illnesses, so going to being invisible illness college or university student with invisible illness, finding those was great. But then it was being referred to as a spoonie. That there's a whole other hashtags for spoonie babies, spoonie moms, sort of spoonie university. So like you had said too, kind of scouting what works well with your activism, with your illness specifically, or like you had said, you have those journeys of being an activist in that part of your life, but then also the fertility journey and then now the mom journey. So sort of using those as your hubs of when you post different things, I think is like you had said as well, it sort of targets different followings for different things as well and brings a more inclusive environment to your social media activism, both on Twitter and on Instagram as well.
Absolutely.
No, and I love that. Now, at the end, I'm excited for everyone to find you on Twitter and Instagram, because on Twitter, you and I have such sassy tweets, and I thoroughly enjoy your tweets all the time. So, thoroughly.
Twitter is my sassy platform, that's for sure.
I love that. So going into, we're going to get more sass from Rachel, empowerment sass in our final segment for the episode.
I love that.
We're going to go into our final segment, In an Ideal World. ideal world, we often talk about in the chronic illness community and the nonprofit community ways that we can improve society, we can make things more positive and diverse and inclusive, especially for the chronic illness and disability community. But those can be very big boulders to have to push up the mountain on our own. So with this segment, we get to talk with our guests about different misconceptions or stigmas that we have to combat against, and how we can not only erase those stigmas, but ways that we can take those small building steps, living with an invisible illness or a chronic illness. And from, like Rachel had said, not thinking just the 10 minutes, 10 months from now, but in 10 years from now, how are the things I'm doing now will affect as I continue to age in this community. So I know, like I had mentioned before in many other segments, you use social media with such a versatile manner of whether discussing sort of your type 1 diabetes activism work or the work you've done, especially now with JDRF, or your fertility journey, or now your mom journey with Noah. And so you use social media with so many facets. So I wanted to kind of know, I know we've even talked about it before, having such public platforms that are very popular, you tend to get both positive and negative feedback of different things. So how do you, either different tips that you would have of people to either combat those negative comments, or how do you sort of handle the different emotions you might feel with people making commentary on your social media posts?
So again, I think that it goes back to, it just depends on your personality. As you mentioned, I'm kind of sassy. So, a lot of the times, I'm very grateful for my coworkers. One, because most of them also have type 1 diabetes, so they get it. And even the ones that don't, they're like 100% in our corner, right? So many times I'll just tell them about what I saw on Twitter or this Facebook comment, and I will spout off to them, but I'm not going to spout off in a comment section, because that does no good.
Very little.
I've had several people over the years, just kind of not so kindly question my decisions regarding my health, or what I choose to eat, or treatments I choose to do or not do. And there are several different ways that you can handle those, right? You can just ignore them, which for some people is going to be the best course of action. It just depends on where your mind is at the time. There have been plenty of people I've ignored because if I didn't, it would just not be good. Yeah. And I could not get myself to a place that would be good or helpful. You can use it as an educational opportunity, and that's what I really strive to do most of the time right now, is use those negative comments as an educational opportunity to hopefully teach someone. Whether they take it or not, that's on them. It's just their problem. But I feel like you can take those negative comments and use them for good or bad, but don't let them get to you, and that's hard, because my coworkers will sit here and tell you, Rachel, you're like torturing yourself reading all these dumb people just spouting off about stuff they don't know, and I get so upset. But just let it roll off your back. But if you want to respond, I highly, highly encourage you to use it as an educational opportunity. Because there are occasionally, it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't even happen most of the time. But when it does happen to where you can actually educate someone and that person is appreciative, that is an amazing moment. You just got yourself another advocate for yourself. Yeah. So like I said, they're few and far between, but when it does happen, it just makes it so worth it.
Oh, and I always say the 24-hour rule has been sort of, even at InvisiYouth, we have volunteers that'll help on social media. If people on our YouTube channel or even on our podcast channels will make different commentary that, like I always say, is a little more on the ignorant side because they don't know any different, I always will tell our volunteers we definitely have a 24-hour policy. You can write however you feel in a note on your phone, on your memos, and then if 24 hours from now you really still feel that passionately that statement has to be said, then you have enough of your own sort of your clear head behind you to then do that. 9 times out of 10, you really will never post what you write. It is just that exertion of agitation towards sort of that mindset.
Yeah, and it's so difficult, especially with social media and just general online stuff right now, because people they can just hide behind their keyboard and say whatever they want. And then there's those people that just do it for fun. They think it's fun to get people upset, which I will never understand. But, at this point, it's just like, and it's an age thing too. When I was 18, I will never forget this, but someone told me, via a blog that, I should just let natural selection do what it's going to do. Like, obviously, I'm a weaker species, so, like,
oh my God,
medicine shouldn't be a thing. I'm like, you're telling me that you think I should just die? And I got really, really offended. I mean, obviously, it made an impression. This was 14 years ago. And, but if someone would have said that today, I would just be like, boy, you're dumb. Like, okay, you're stupid. It's fine. I'll pray for you.
best way to end it. Pull the southern one out. I love that. And I was even kind of going off of that too, like you had said, as you've aged from being 18 and newly diagnosed into now being in your early 30s, going into that. It sort of is, there's a lot more obviously now posting quite a bit with Noah too. So I always will say to young people when they start bringing in their siblings or their boyfriends and girlfriends, their spouses or now children, if they're starting to develop into that part of building their family, there's other people now that are being part of your activism network that now are open for people to make commentary, especially with you balancing being a mom and your own health as well. So has there been more of even personally some complexities of how you like to try and handle that sort of balance of both in social media, of your personal life with Noah as well as your activism life that you talk about?
Yeah, and you mentioned balance, and that's just so important right now for me. I have previously been fairly terrible at balance. I would do almost anything, even if it meant, having an out of balance life as far as like my mental health, my physical health. If I feel like people with chronic illnesses, we kind of get competitive because we want everyone to see we're people just like you and we can do anything that you can do, and I guarantee you we can do it better. Yeah. So we have this need to prove ourselves. And that's what I did a lot, and I recognize that about myself. But right now, as a mom, a new mom with a precious, precious son who, like, I already started freaking out. I'm like, the summer's almost over. I only have 17 more summers with him.
Oh my God.
So, right, and he's 7 months old. Like, I need to cool it. But that is really important to me right now, to spend quality time with my son and not give my time to people who are affecting me negatively, to people who are going to call into question my choice to have children, my choice of the way we had children, my diet. I mean, I'm just not going to pay attention to those people right now. Yeah. If someone asks me a genuine question and says, hey, I have a genuine question. Why do you XYZ, or how do you XYZ? I'm not dealing with accusatory questions right now. There's a time and a place. But right now, the way I balance it is I ignore those people. I ignore those comments. And honestly, it's probably a good rule to have forever.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to have the motivation to ignore people like that. There's going to be a time when Noah's at, summer camp, and I'm not going to have anything to do except respond to trolls on the internet, and I'm just going to wanna. But there are better uses of your time, there are better uses of your mental energy, than to let those types of people just wipe you out. So yeah, just balancing for me right now is ignoring and cutting people out. And I have zero shame about that, zero regrets about that. And there'll be people that will say, well, you're only, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, or you're not you're just refusing to be challenged. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
I feel like I do a pretty good job of keeping an open mind and just knowing what I need to do for my mental health and for my life where it is right now. And I just encourage everyone else to do the same.
Yeah, and I love how you said that too. It is sort of you taking a step back and going, okay, I still have to do what I've done all these past 14 years of living with diabetes and how that has sort of shaped and evolved as I've aged and different career paths I've had and through your IVF journey as well, and then being pregnant with Noah and that whole balance of pregnancy with chronic illness and figuring that out. You do have to you keep sort of honing in on what are the important factors of your health at different stages, and then how that looks now of balancing taking care of another human being at the same time of your own normal human being way that you've been so used to. You have to I always say put the perspective on of, if I'm going to be taking care of another human being, or I'm traveling for my job now and still balancing chronic illness, or I'm going to be living on my own and alone for the first time with a chronic illness, you kind of have to zero it back in and focus on yourself so you can then find that new normal every time you evolve. You're capable of always taking those next steps, but just having your support network of family and friends, or your communities on social media, of asking questions, of a sounding board with the health community or your doctors as well, of having that open dialogue of saying, so in my ideal world, I want to be able to go through a pregnancy and have a baby, but how could that affect my health? So what are things I might want to look for in 2 or 3 years if I'm looking to do something like that, or move somewhere by myself? What do I now need to worry about that I haven't been being with my parents or siblings or friends? You have to always, like you said, put the emphasis on your own personal journey versus everyone's opinions of how you decide to live that journey.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
And ending on that fun note, I like to always say this was something that when we were planning your episode, one of my global brand leaders had mentioned to me, was saying sort of how you deal with that structure of sort of the new stages of life and doing it in a sort of activism platform. They said, oh, well, you just have to think of the swan theory. So I kind of laughed and went, the swan theory. And they said, oh, well, swans are these beautiful, elegant mammals sort of on top of the water, but then underneath, what you don't see is their legs, like, working super hard and super stressed out legs. So on social media, you tend to see the beautiful swan on top and not all the stressful leg work that they're doing. So they said that's your decision of when you're making these life transitions, you can either physically show the pretty bird and that's all you're showing, or you can talk about and use your captions, use your sassy Twitter motivation, and use your words to talk about activism and sort of the crazy ups and downs of, oh, I've been doing this with my health and now I'm living alone, and oh my God, I'm trying to balance that now with my health. I never thought of X, Y, and Z. And sort of now you're able to use your words to ask for support from this activism network that you've built for yourself.
Yes. And that's so, I love the swan theory. I've not heard that, but that is so true. So many times you just see the swan on social media. And this is one of my things. I mean, my passion is to empower people with type 1 diabetes, people who live with chronic illnesses, invisible illnesses especially, right? We look healthy. And I mean, that's an subjective term, right? Health, but that's a whole other thing. But it frustrates me so much when people are just posting their perfect blood sugar numbers, their perfect whatever. And I'm just like, this is not real life. And so like the other day I tweeted, I get a report every week that says how long I've been in range. I have a target blood sugar range, and I was in range for 36% of the time. That sucks, right? Like, sucks. And I tweeted, I was like, you know what? Hey, literally everyone on Twitter, my blood sugar was in range 36% of the time this week. And I just feel like you guys need to know that, because not everyone, hardly anyone posts their really crappy weeks. And I really do try and be intentional about posting and showing the legs underneath the water, because that is real life. The perfect unicorn blood sugar is not real life. The real life is trial and error, is the struggle. And it's just, and there's something so empowering too about just putting yourself out there as imperfect.
And that's when you get the best sort of advice from this thousands of people who now support your activism too, is when you post that, they went, oh, that happened to me one time, and this is what my doctor told me to do. And then you get multiple perspectives of support, which is, in an ideal world, that's exactly what you need.
Exactly. Like, if you're using this to just show out, then okay, I mean, you're really not utilizing your community very well. But if you really truly want help, like, be vulnerable with your friends on the internet, you know?
Yeah, there we go.
When you're having struggles. I just feel like that's just the best way to be authentic and to connect with people. No one is going to connect with perfection, but people connect with your hard times, with your hardships, and with things you struggle with. Yeah.
And speaking of finding social media, and I've been talking about your perfect swan theory of you show your legs and your beautiful swan. I want people, since we're at the end of the episode, to be able to find you on social media, not only so they can read your sassy motivation tweets, but so they can see you and Noah, because Noah makes every day better for me. So I've had volunteers, they go, Rachel hasn't posted a photo of Noah in 2 days. I need to now look at his old photos.
I don't know that I've actually gone 2 days without posting a photo of Noah. If I have, though, please text me, because something's wrong.
So, you tell all of our viewers and listeners where they can find you on social media and on the web.
Yes. So you can find me at the Rachel Mayo. You can already tell the sassiness just because I have the word "the" in front of my name. So on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at the Rachel Mayo. Please follow me. And I tell everyone, like, if you feel like there's no one to say, hey, you're doing a great job. Hey, you can do this. Hey, like, hi, I'm your friend, and I will tell you that, because I don't know you. I don't know anything about you, but I do know that whatever it is, yes, you can do it. So please feel free to follow me. Feel free to ask me questions. Please feel free to compliment my son and how cute he is, because wowzers, like, he really is.
He really is.
Like, and I get it. I'm the mom. I'm biased, but
top 10. Whatever. Easy top 10 for me. Easy top 10. We're gonna have all of Rachel's links below, so you can, like we said, you can follow her, send her a DM. You can write a comment about how adorable Noah is and her activism and how awesome it is. And so we're gonna put all of those links below. And as always, you can find Invisi Chat Sessions on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, and on all of our podcast platforms, so iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, make sure you subscribe there too. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at InvisiYouth. And so before we leave, I want to say thank you again to my friend Rachel for being our guest today, and I was so happy to get to share this hour with you.
It was so fantastic. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm honored to be number 22 on your face.
So we will check you guys at our next episode when we go to 23, and you'll get to see who our guest is then. So bye, everyone.